Now to think why we actually get stress. There are main categories that causes stress, which are internal, external, personal, occupation, and sports environment. Internal causes of stress could be illness, cognitive anxiety, lack of sleep, and overly self-critical, i.e. being perfectionist. An example is when a ballerina is criticizing herself about her arabesque technique and how her leg isn't extended enough behind her, so she'll become stressed about that. External causes of stress could be environment being too noisy or too quiet, negative social interactions such as someone being rude to you, or a major life event like a loss in a family, day-to-day hassles such as work and travel. A good example would be getting booed by the crowd. Personal causes of stress could come from significant people in our lives such as friends, family, as well as lifestyle factors such as health and finance. Occupational causes of stress can relate to your job, i.e. a lack of job satisfaction or unemployment. An example of occupational stress is having a dispute with your coach or manager and being dropped from the team. Sports environment can cause stress in two main ways: importance of the event or uncertainties that surround the event. An example would be playing the country cup final, county cup final for your home team. There will be a lot of stress then. Major stresses in sports are competition, conflict, frustration, climate and fatigue or injury. Like said before, stresses are a combination of anxiety and arousal. When a stressor arises when there's an imbalance of the person's perception of the demands of the situation and their own ability to meet the demand. Now looking on the stages of stress. Stage 1. The first stage of the stress process is a form of demand that's put on the athlete's situation, which could be a 100-meter final or the last round of boxing. Stage 2. This is where the athlete perceives this demand in either positively or negatively. If it is positive, then they will see it as a challenge, whereas if they see it negatively, then they will see it as a threat. It will be seen as negatively if there is a lack of confidence. Stage 3. This is where there is an increased aroused levels, either cognitive or somatic. If in stage 2 it was positive perception of the demand, then it will become a eustress and have increased energy and motivation. If it was a negative perception, then it will become de-stress and increase the worriedness. Stage 4. And this is where the outcome of the demand of the performance, which can either increase or decrease it. If we look at symptoms of stress, the response of the stress is controlled by two parts of the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic system. One common process that describes the physiological changes that the body goes through when under stress is the general adaptation syndrome. The first stage is the alarm reaction. This is where the initial symptoms of the body has when it's under stress. When it's perceived as a stressor, the body reacts with a fight or flight response, and the sympathetic nervous system is stimulated to prepare the body for any danger. Your heart will increase and your adrenal glands releases cortisol, which gives a boost of adrenaline, which gives you energy. Some of the symptoms which are responsible for the fight or flight response are increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, increased muscles, dilated pupils, increased metabolism, dry mouth, and blood diverting to the muscles to provide more oxygen. For example, if you were walking across a street and a car was veering towards you, your pupils will dilate to make sure you have the best possible vision. All these symptoms affect one another. Blood being diverted to the muscles to provide more oxygen to ensure the muscles will get extra oxygen and nutrients. Therefore, you will get dry mouth as blood is diverted away from inner organs, so the digestive process is slowed down. As the heart rate increases to increase circulation as the body thinks the muscle will be working harder, the breathing rate increases as well. Due to this, as the body needs to take enough oxygen to keep up with increased circulation of blood. The second stage is the resistance stage. This is where the body resists and contemplates as the parasympathetic nervous system attempts to return many physiological functions to normal levels. So it releases a small amount of cortisol, which can normalize the heart rate, which hopefully will bring back to equilibrium. There are some symptoms which include irritability, frustration, and poor concentration. The parasympathetic nervous system symptoms which can help to relax you after the sympathetic nervous system, such as decrease in heart rate, breathing rate, body temperature, slows down the metabolism, makes the muscles relax. The third stage is the exhaustion stage. This is where there is prolonged stress, and if the stressor or stresses continue beyond the body's capacity, the resources become exhausted and the body is susceptible to disease and death. Some of these symptoms would include fatigue, burnout, depression, anxiety, and decreased stress tolerance. Now, this is where we look at factors affecting exercise. Why do people participate in exercise? Well, people participate in exercise for many reasons, including health benefits relating to weight management, cardiovascular risk, and mental health issues. Also, another one is enjoyment, which is normally the main reason why people take part in exercise. Also, there is also self-esteem, and increased self-esteem from achieving goals. Like if you wanted to lose weight and you managed to lose that weight, that is boosting your self-esteem. And social reason, it gives you the opportunity to meet new people and socialise, such as group-based, such as aerobics and rugby. However, there are barriers to exercise, and there are four main ones. These are physical. These can relate to injuries or disabilities, health and age. Emotional. These relate to some form of fear. I might get an injury, or being too shy to take part, being too embarrassed, and considering them know to be sporty. There's also another barrier is motivation. This is where they don't have the commitment to maintain an activity program. Most common reason is needing time to relax and spare time and not having enough energy. And one of the most important ones is time. This is seen as more as a perceived barrier than an actual barrier, as timing barriers might include family or work commitments. Determinants of exercise. Determinants of exercise, person factors, environment factors, and activity-related factors. Personal factors include income, education, motivation, feelings, and previous history of the exercise participation. Environmental factors include support of friends, family, weather conditions, and facilities. Activity-related factors include the frequency and the intensity of the activity, the difficulty of the activity, and the duration of the activity. There are three models that explain physiology factors that explain how people are affected in exercise. There are the health belief model, the theory of planned behavior model, and the trans-theoretical model. With all these models, we based our survey where we asked people questions about why they exercise and why they don't, and how their attitudes are changing to exercise. The first model we're going to look at is the health belief model. The health belief model explains why individuals may accept or reject healthy behaviours. It proposes they will respond best to messages about health or promotion of health when four conditions to change exist. There must be all four elements for there to be a change. These four elements are perceived susceptibility, perceived severity, perceived benefits, and perceived barriers. Perceived susceptibility is the person's assessment of a likelihood of them getting the condition, such as how likely are you going to get diabetes. Perceived severity is the person's view of how severely replied they would be impacted if they were affected by the condition. A question for a survey would be like, how severe would it be if you got diabetes on a scale of 1 to 10? Perceived benefit is the belief in how effective the advised medicine or action will be mitigating the problems of the condition considered in severity. How likely are you likely to listen to the medical advice? And the perceived barriers is the perception of the difficulties they will encounter in taking proposed actions, including both physical and psychological barriers. With our survey, if we relate this to question 10, how likely would you be to take up a new exercise plan recommended by your doctors if they were to tell you you had a higher chance of developing conditions such as diabetes or high blood pressure in the future on a scale of 1 to 10? And also linking that to this is, do you tend to ignore the advice about your health as you believe it may not actually affect your personality? Both these questions can relate to the perceived benefits. With our data, 100% of our participants stated that they would not ignore advice from the doctor. All of the participants have a score of above 6 of how likely they would listen to their doctors, which clearly suggests most people have high belief in how effective medical advice will be mitigating the problems. This shows in relating to the perceived benefits, the people we asked this was important. In relation to question 16 and perceived barriers, what do you think is the main reason for people not exercising? 75% of the people said that the main reason for people not exercising was the lack of motivation and excuses, which thoroughly implies that the people we asked believe that with the health belief model they experience this barrier. The subjective people believe that time and lack of motivation act as the main perceived barrier that stopped them from doing exercise. However, 25% of the subjects thought that this was the injury and it was the main barrier that stopped them from doing exercise. If we look at the second theory, which is the theory of planned behaviour, this theory believes that you must have all three elements, which are attitude, subject norm, and perceived behaviour control. Attitude is what you think of exercise, subject norm is everything around you, such as your family, friends, and doctors, and the perceived behaviour control is how hard or easy it is to make this change. Which, when we have all three of them, can lead to the intention of making the change, and that changes the behaviour. Some of the scenarios are, if you have a positive mindset about running, and your family or friends have a positive perception of running, and it's easy to do, then that person is more likely to have the intent to do it and will change their behaviour. If you have a positive mindset about something such as smoking, but the subject norm has negative opinion on that, then they will not have the intent to do it as much as it's not seen as socially acceptable. However, if you have a positive attitude and a negative norm, but it's easy to do, a person can either change or override that with their will. Linking to the survey, question 7, how self-motivated are you to achieve the goals you have set in sports on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no motivation and 2 being extremely motivation? 75% of people had a self-motivation of under 5, which we can link to the perceived behaviour control, as they think it's too much effort to make a change, and therefore have low motivation levels resulting in less exercise. This clearly shows that people are affected by the theory of planned behaviour. When looking at question 14, would you be more encouraged to take up a new sport or healthier lifestyle if a friend did it? 100% of our participants said yes, which we can link to the subject norm, as they would take up sports if their friend did it. Also linking to question 17, how would the prospect of starting a new exercise regime make you feel? 75 of our participants believe that starting exercise will make them feel positive, which shows the majority of people have a positive mindset of starting a new regime. But if you don't have the other two elements, then they won't have the intention to change that behaviour.